So our next panel discussion has the topic Building Resilience, Roadmap for Amrit Kaal. And let me take this a moment to introduce our distinguished panelists for this discussion to you. First of all, we have on this panel Shri Surendra Ahivar, Joint Secretary, Ministry of Commerce and Industry for Government of India. But as I'm told, he's actually running a little late. So he'll be joining us shortly on stage. In the meantime, may I invite Shri Sudhendu J. Sinha, Advisor, Infrastructure, Connectivity and Electric Mobility for NITI Aayog, Government of India, on stage, sir. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Next, we have with us Shri V.K. Jindal, former Additional Chief Advisor, Department of Expenditure, Ministry of Finance, Government of India. A big round of applause for Mr. Jindal. Finally, on this panel, we have Shri Amuleek Singh Bijral, co-founder and CEO of Chai Point. And to moderate this discussion, may I call upon stage Dr. Arun Singh, Global Chief Economist of Dun & Bradstreet. Over to you, Dr. Singh.
Thank you, Kaustubh. Welcome back. Now, another powerful session. I think we had a very good session earlier. Panel discussion was great, insightful. I'm sure that everyone have got something. Now, let's come to the next panel discussion. In fact, welcome to this wonderful discussion on the building resilience, basically roadmap to Amrit Kaal. This period, when you talk about, I just spoke 25 years, is very important, very critical when you talk about, because this will shape India's destiny, because we are approaching centennial independence in 2047. And while we talk about that piece, we learn from the past, and we're talking about the future, there's attention to the role of PSUs to this growth journey, in fact, and that the role PSU have played, I think you don't need any statistics, everyone is aware about. But when I talk about their role in the investment, infrastructure, energy production, and then efficiency, everything's basically created what I say the economic growth engine and self-reliant and resilient nation. When we start any discussion on the PSU, that's actually incomplete when we don't talk about the capitalism. While capitalism basically helped creating a wealth for many countries, it has its own fallacies in the current form. The divide between rich and poor is evident, and the detrimental effect on the environment is very clear. In fact, most of the companies slowly, gradually realizing and adopting what we call reformed and reimagined model of capitalism. In fact, this model, the objective of that is basically what we call, this idea is a patient capital. Remain invested for the long-term gain rather than giving to the pressure of a short-term profit. If I have to take an example of some of the foreign companies, some of the developed countries, they got 70 to 90% of the return on their investment within 3 to 4 years of investment in other countries other than China. But they remained invested in the China for 8 to 11 years just for a break even. Now look at that. China is the biggest market, if not biggest, second biggest market. So that's basically the objective, the benefit, the positive recommendation from the reformed and reimagined model of capitalism is basically already embedded into the objective on which PSUs were created in the country. And that's basically we are going to talk about. That's what we're basically going to discuss. Uh, how can these entities evolve to meet the demand of dynamic capitalist environment and keeping the social contribution nature intact? How these entities can evolve to take on the technology disruption and grow and create those sustainable environment for others. I think that's what we are going to discuss today, and we have a very good brain on the stage, and they have expertise in that field. And today's panel discussion, I'm basically trying to divide into 6 buckets. One talks about inclusive development and reaching the last mile, infrastructure and investment, unleashing the potential, green growth, youth power, and the last, financial sector. Let me start with inclusive development and reaching the last mile. And coming to Mr. Jindal, I think when I talk about, he's coming from Ministry of Finance, as a former advisor. Now, I think World Bank has described what you call the importance of financial inclusion for the shared prosperity and the reducing what you call the poverty in the country. What Ministry of Finance have done in the field of financial inclusion, and what are the measures the Ministry of Finance have taken so far, which basically takes to the next Amrit Kaal period.
Good afternoon, good evening. Financial inclusion has been the subject since the present government took over. And the first thing we have done for the financial inclusion, the opening of the bank accounts. The most important that the person, the lowest person, everybody should have the access to the banks, to the system whereby we can offer the facility of the finance. Now, second thing, at that time, we have done insurance, we have done other things. But now the most important thing we have done is the digitization. UPI, by which everybody payments are entered in the banks, and on the basis of those banks the person can get the loans or financial assistance. Similarly, now the latest things we have done NITI, under which even the street vendors are given the loan from 10,000 to rupees 50,000 based on their very low rate of interest, about 2 to 3% loan of the interest. And apart from that, if you take the payments, we are also giving 1200 rupees as the cash incentive. So now the question is this, whether, and the impact is not a single person or some businessman only, huge complete data set of the rural and urban people are being plowed back for financial inclusion. Government, but with the digitization, with the financial mudra loan, these things are changing the concept of the financial inclusion. As far as the business is concerned, the mudra loan has changed not on the, now you are well aware that the banks don't give on the basis of the balance sheet, but just give, they take your GSTR return, and on the basis of that they give the loans, financial assistance. So people are taking, and I am also telling about the, because I have been Swachh Bharat mission director also, how the smallest people, even the Safai workers, were being included in the whole chain of the financial inclusion. For example, we are giving one home we are giving gas, we are giving electricity, and also Ayushman Yojana card. All five things are combined and given it to a poor family, and that person is included as a Safai worker on in the system. I know about in the Chhattisgarh, some ladies which were employed about 10th to 12th pass, they have started the working of the as a Safai worker because they are getting a assured sum on the basis of this Swachh Bharat Yojana. I can guarantee that the way the government is working to include the poorest people into the system and also ensuring that the right beneficiary get the benefit either by Manrega or whatever the system is there, more and more people will get the benefit.
Thank you, Mr. Jindal. I think last year we did one assessment in some of the states on this vendor loan, I think, and we spoke 30,000 plus beneficiaries. And to our surprise, they were super thrilled about this vendor loan. It's very small, 10,000. But now that 10,000 loans are available because they need for various purpose. It's available. I think earlier they never imagined that this type of things would be available. 30,000
raised to 50,000.
Exactly.
50,000.
So that's I think that's a great thing the government is doing. I think that will help to really touch the untouched population so far in terms of the financial inclusion. That's- Now moving to the infrastructure, I mean we talk about infrastructure and there are buzz in terms of the green infrastructure we're talking about. Moving to you, Shri Sinha ji, I think the green mobility is what coming in. We're talking about green infrastructure and government role in that, in fact. And we are expecting that is going to play a big role in the decarbonization what's going on. So is there any roadmap for this piece going forward and how government is going to drive this piece? Your view?
There is a definite roadmap to it, and in a very structured manner, we are driving it forward. So you have taken two pieces together. One is the infrastructure, and second is the green mobility stream. So if you see, the government started with an understanding, rather with an assumption, that great nations are built on great infrastructure. That is why the initial references are, if you see, they are talking of US, they are talking of the autobahns of Germany, they are talking of the inland waterways of again Germany, and a number of places they are talking of. So that led to, this understanding led to initiation of National Infrastructure Pipeline, 111 lakh crore rupees, massive project for the first time, where 22 infrastructure, 17 economic, physical, road, railways and civil aviation kind of things, and 5 social infrastructure, all of them were combined together. So the pipeline was created so that you can have one visibility of the infrastructure, how exactly they are going forward. Gradually, it started thinking that, okay, all this cannot be created with government funds alone. So that idea led to asset monetization, that idea led to PPP initiatives. So that was a second kind of understanding. It also came in that why it is that Indian infrastructure implementation always gets delayed. Why it is that the time and cost overrun is something endemic to our infrastructure. So if a project is a big ticket project, it has got to be delayed. So if a national flagship scheme is 25 lakh crore rupees, it will end up 25,000 crore rupees. It will end up with 1 lakh 25,000 crore rupees after delay of 8 years. Why it is like that? So that challenge led to rise of Gati Shakti. So I'm just trying to bring before you that what has been a different understanding that has in turn led to the innovations in the field of infrastructure. So Gati Shakti came in, and then the idea came that why Gati Shakti can only be applied to the economic infrastructure, why it cannot be broadened to include social infrastructure. So Gati Shakti became a lever for identifying where the hospital can be located, where a school, university, where a tribal hostel can be located. So all those things were there. Gradually now it is being moved, is scaled up further, that how it can be used for area development, for a regional development, as an instrument for regional development. That is another thing coming in. We also realize that why it is that our goods and our products which we make with relatively cheaper labor but with good quality, why it is that it does not become internationally competitive. You have heard how we have done so well in infrastructure. Digital infrastructure was being mentioned. I always say that India annually consumes more data than that of China and US put together. And the good thing is that the major consumption takes place in the rural areas. Now, once we have, kind of set the benchmark on infrastructure, I won't give examples. So you hear every day that 100-kilometer road on a particular day. So 30, 40, that is how we have moved kilometer per day. The quality of expressways, highways, in infrastructure deficit areas, you were mentioning about inclusion, those areas which have never seen any semblance of good quality road, now you have got railway lines landing there, Tupul, Jirimam, Nahar Lagoon, Harmuti, all those places, these are amazing. Now they are getting connected to the national mainstream. Now the idea is now people, citizen of India, they're all the more aspirational. They do not only want that big number of infrastructure, bigger pace of infrastructure, faster pace of infrastructure. They want quality embedded to it. So it has to be resilient, it has to be sustainable, it has to be recyclable, it has to be safe, it has to be green. So that is what the newer challenge is. That is what you see, that infrastructure is now gradually, those who are implementing it, they are getting rising to this particular occasion. So mobility, green mobility, yes, you mentioned about it. So green mobility is being taken forward. At NITI Aayog, there is a national mission on transformative mobility and battery storage, and that is from where you see we are running it forward. So as we were mentioning, we were discussing just little while ago, that when you think of mobility, think of the most livable cities of the world. So you've got Barcelona, Vienna, got Copenhagen, Stockholm. In fact, none of the Asian cities come. Around 10 would be Singapore, and little down would be Tokyo, and then no one else. Because these are the cities who have planned for next 25 odd years. They know that based on their demographic parameters, what are the facilities that they require in those cities. And as I told you, I have been visiting Germany since last almost 8 to 10 years, and I'm watching that there are main roads in the city that is gradually getting reduced, but the pedestrian pathways, the cycleways, the dedicated bus routes, the e-scooter ways, that is gradually increasing. So they are, that is becoming a kind of lifestyle. How do people move? In India, it is very difficult. It is gradually, we are trying to address it. For example, in India, if a guest comes to your place, the first question, how you broach upon the conversation, you ask, "Kaise aaye the? How did you come?" And he will respond in an equally pitiable way. बहुत congestion था, इधर फंस गए, उधर फंस गए. If he says, "I came on bus," तो now you always say, "बता दिए होता, I would have sent you a car," because in abroad they never asked you how you came, because they know that you must have come by tube or you must have come by public transport. That is the only method that you come. Here, private transport is more significant. We are attempting that how this choice of transport shifts from private to that of public mode. That is more important. So that is how we are taking it forward. Yes.
So thank you, Mr. Sinha. I think that was very good. I think I'll come back on the PM Gati Shakti we talked about and the city infrastructure. That's basically we need. Now, I think the previous panel discussion we spoke about digital. We talk about the technology. Now, that's basically coming to you, Mr. Singh, for your comment on how does digitalization help India unleash its potential? How you see that have helped in your sector area, and what is the roadmap looking like?
Thank you. So, I'm from the beverage sector, and I want to talk about a few terms and how they connect. So, we deal in the business of chai and coffee. So, one theme that comes up is that it's a social glue at population scale, our business. Then, it's extremely hyperlocal, which means that it touches the last mile. Third part is that it is a huge part, it is a huge lever for unlocking employment. The fourth part is that we are seeing it all happen through the power of technology. There's also an element of ESG here, which is again assisted by technology. Now, how does that all come together? Consumption of chai in India on a per capita basis is still very small, but thanks to the population scale, it's humongous. Every chai wala can make a living in a small street. Now, women are also coming into the employment arena, and chai traditionally has been excluded, from their participation. Our play is all about bringing the power of technology through our brewing bots, which can allow this high volume, literally 24/7 business of chai to be delivered with ease so that men, women can participate equally. And by bringing brewing bots, we are moving away from fossil fuel based production of chai. Forget about the total potential of the country. The 5-year plan that we have as a brand, our data tells us that we can reduce CO2 emissions by 0.4% if we achieve our plan. Obviously, our plan is also ambitious. So, technology coming into this simple beverage, frankly, is an eye opener for us. I mean, we have some of the brewing bots outside, and I encourage the attendees here to sort of nudge me and my colleagues to give you a walkthrough of the beverages. All of these brewing bots are cloud connected. See, the world of chai in India is a world of tea and spices and herbs. If you do the permutation combination of the possibilities of chai, you run into hundreds. And if you're aiming for consistency across these hundreds of beverages and training everybody at the same level, that's where the power of cloud comes in, because every brewing bot is basically looking at the cloud for downloading the recipe and assisting the chaiwala literally as an avatar, literally as a valet, as an assist to create that perfect beverage of chai for the consumer. That's what we are up to, and I think the best way to appreciate what I said is by really experiencing just outside this hall. Thank you.
No, thanks, Mr. Singh. I think it's a really eye-opener for all of us, the use of technology within the beverage sector. I think no one thought about that. This will be used such a efficient way that I think everyone is having here. I think I can say that 99% of people are enjoying the fact, and it's available. It's available everywhere. That's the power of technology. And thank you for your insight. Now, coming to you, Mr. Jindal, I think being part of the Ministry of Finance is always critical. That's what I'm saying. And now, Mr. Sinha spoke about infrastructure. Next 25 infrastructure will be huge requirement. And the funding and investment is even critical part of that. How you see how Ministry of Finance is going to support this funding and investment part of this infrastructure, because that's a critical element. If that's not done, certainly we're talking about certain issues.
Infrastructure financing has been the most critical part in the sense because it is a different financing as compared to other commercial and manufacturing financing. It is not the same financing because here the funds are invested on a long-term basis and the return is expected after completion of the project, but very, very very stabilized type of a return, say guaranteed type of return. So banks also don't have the money to lend for such infra projects. Uh, our Mr. Sinha has just told about the national pipeline. So you have told about the what the next 25 years. But the first the question is what are the size of the projects to be going to be there. So what we have done in national pipe infrastructure pipeline made all the infrastructure projects were taken in there and the size of the projects, the infrastructure project was mapped. And we came to know that yes, the total project is $15 US dollar 155 trillion. Okay. Then the question came how these funds were to be arranged. You are well aware that we have done lot of financing in the railway Gati PM Gati Shakti Yojana, particularly in the PM Gati Shakti Yojana. But we have estimated for this national pipeline that the total funding of the states and central government has been about 70%. And the balance 15% we are trying to get through the PPP. We are 6% trying to get from the asset monetization. But still there is a remaining gap about 10 to 15%, which is still to be found out how the money is to be funded. We have taken government of India has taken a number of the steps, yes, in association with the NITI Aayog, in association with the Department of Economic Affairs and others. You know, the government have established a national infrastructure bank, and the money you have recently in June 23, a bond issue came for 5,000 crore loans, and it was subscribed about 5 times, 4.67 times, or 23,000 crores. And the government kept about 10,000 crores. Government have given about 20,000 crores already as equity and 5,000 crores to get. So, government is trying to leverage these funds to take the more loans from the domestic as well as the international centers like ADB and etc. Is trying to leverage public-private partnership and at the same time trying to leverage the asset monetization. But the basic question what we have done is the rating. Because of the rating of the infrastructure projects, generally banks or other institutions do not give. Because even the 1% probability, the rating of the infrastructure projects goes down. And we have done the concept of the expected loss, EL rating, which has been now recognized by, though it was working since 2014. Now, what the concept is that though there is a probability, but what amount of the loss is going to be there. So loss is minimal because infrastructure projects gets sometime delayed return because of the, for example, a toll road is there because of the some regions the vehicles are not moving and then the money is not coming. Because the money is not coming at the correct time, there may be a default, but it doesn't mean that the project has got liquidated. It will get its payment, and so that type of rating, the loss is going to be 1% or 2%, not more than that. So we have done. Now we have also established two innovative instruments, and you are well aware, REITs and InvITs. These two instruments have gone very successful to invite where the project has stabilized and return have been starting to pour in, and then the project is given to the funds or to the peoples who want to a stabilized return rather than the volatile return of 18-20%. They are happy with the 8 to 10, 12% return. So Canadian pension funds, so many people have poured in money into such infra projects on a longer term basis. Similarly, we have worked on the REITs where the property rental from the property is taken into consideration and that is sold into the people to the peoples who want a long-term investment from the funds. Look, there will be always a. We have also done the infrastructure financing as a priority financing and all these things we have done. Will remain a problem. It cannot be a one-time solution, but given the national pipeline infrastructure projects, if we are able to map what is the total requirement, we can think of newer methods, innovative methods to find the funding for those projects.
Thank you, Mr. Jindal, for your perspective. I think that was great. Now, in the interest of time, and let me switch to last few questions. Basically, the green growth. Coming to you, Mr. Sinha, I think you talked about green growth briefly, but when you talk about Amrit Kaal, one of the pillars is a green growth. What steps you think needs to be taken to ensure that sustainable green growth be maintained?
So like you see in the production processes, number two, when you are using that particular asset, and finally the circularity and the recycling. In all the three stages, you have to work out so that the carbon footprint that you are generating, house gas emission that you are going ahead for, that is the least. And when we use the word sustainable, that is what precisely is meant with. And when we say that it has to be resilient, that means the fundamentals are so strong that in the event of any untoward incident, any catastrophe, it should have the natural inclination to bounce back to its original position. So it's not that if in some mountainous state, if there is some disaster has happened and all the infrastructure has washed away, then it will take years together to redeem it. That should not be the case. That is why the new concepts of de-risking infrastructure, concept of ensuring infrastructure, those concepts are gradually coming in. So the use of materials which you are doing, the processes that you are following, the application which you are doing, and finally the throughout the life cycle that you are maintaining, that is where it has to be green growth. If you see the difference of infrastructure in today and earlier, so earlier infrastructure was supposed to be only for a period of 20 odd years. Now 50 plus is the minimum. So that is the life cycle which they are looking into. And in many cases, it is going close to 75 plus. So many years it should be able to give service, hassle free, all problems should not be there. So that is what is precisely meant by that. Yes.
Thank you for that perspective. I think earlier we were looking for just one generation, maybe at least 3-4 generations can get the service from that piece, which is great. Now, I think moving to, for interest of time, the another pillar we talk about youth power. Coming to you, Mr. Singh, I think the youth power, of course, that skilling is what very important for the youth to take on these 25 years and generate those returns what we're looking at. Your perspective towards that.
See, my perspective would be in context of the industry from which I come from. And in basic parlance, again, I'll go back to the same theme of chai's and coffee's appeal as a hyper-local beverage. I would like the audience to visualize a dhaba. and or a street side tea stall. I'm sure all of us would appreciate the flow of traffic and consumers, but at the same time, we would have an image of an operator behind that dhaba or a street side stall who's very down market and certainly not a destination for the young and aspirationally driven youth, charting a course for their career, even if for some stage of their life behind that counter. So, aspiration and demand has to meet fundamentally from an employment standpoint. And demand for chai and filter coffee, right? We talk of coffee, and but I think sometimes we in India fail to estimate the power of filter coffee. And chai, of course, is the mother of all beverages here. Now, the demand is so huge. If you were to marry it with an aspirational appeal, there would be a beeline for employment. What is the reason that coffee bars have been there and chai bars have been non existent? The Germans, the Swiss, they started working on coffee machine in 1920s onward. So, it's almost 100 years since the machine industry in that beverage has evolved to such a level of compactness and fashion and appeal that coffee seems very hip. We as a young company started our journey on making brewing boards in 2016. Now we are in Gen 5. We firmly believe that we have reached a stage where that hyper local street wala will morph into an aspirationally driven place, which in turn will make sure that the youth of this country, especially women, are comfortable in dealing in that beverage. Important thing to appreciate here is the demand. See, demand is not even in question. So it's demand meeting aspiration. Women never got into the business of chai because the volumes are so high that you are preparing chai in 10, 20s, often hundreds of liters. It's physically very taxing. And women very quickly realize that if I have to serve the customer base, I will be lugging 20, 30 kg weighing cauldrons. Now, when you convert that into a technology assisted mode where that physical labor is taken away, where technology is there, and demand obviously is existing, you will create employment. So, our goal as a company really is to not only provide the technology but also create the content around training so that it creates an appeal like the baristas of coffee have. They have a curriculum. Spices, hundreds of them, right? So to think of a curriculum which is way more advanced than coffee in the world of tea is a reality, right? So all of this is going to merge and converge. It's a matter of time, and of course, we are not the only ones in this journey. We certainly have been key catalysts, but then there are other players like us who are definitely changing this sector and space and set to make an impact in employment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. I think we're looking forward for that. And I know with time's up anyways, and I'm sure that all of you have some questions at least. That will be great to hear your perspective and any question if you have. But I'll ask last question to Mr. Jindal. I think again, my favorite department, finance. So that's the money basically looking at. And in DNB, when I talk about the last pillar, the financial sector as such, next 25 years, I'm saying this is going to be very critical. I think all of us spoken about this money part. Within that, we all know that 99% of the companies when we talk about is MSMEs. And when they go to the bank for any loan, 28% of them get the loan rejection. It's because there's thin credit lines, nothing. So that's a problem. What do you think Ministry of Finance or some other government body can do to ensure that this is not a deterrent? Because end of the day, they are an employment generator, and they're going to basically contributing to what I'm talking about, 31 trillion by 2047.
Yeah, very important question, and I cannot say on behalf of the government, but on my own personal perspective. Today, the banks are giving the loans on the basis of collateral security, supported by the personal guarantee of the directors or the proprietor or the partners. But the day is coming, the way the system is being implemented, particularly technology, digital infrastructure, that your own sales, your four papers, your GSTR return or your income tax return would be the basis of the grant of the loan. No other document would be required, and on that basis the banks will fill up the forma and will decide how much loan it would be they will be able to give on the basis of the cash flow, future cash flow, rather than on the basis of your asset. That, and the way the things one thing, and this is a part of the banking system, and the other way is come the equity market, where the equity funding will be on the basis of the idea rather than on the basis of your whole what is you are. So how your idea can be, people have told that yes, how you can convert your idea into a reality and can earn the money, have the capacity to earn the money, that will be the point where the equity funding will be there, and how much your digital sales have been there, that would be the basis of the loan in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jindal. I think with that, I'll stop asking questions. If there are any questions from the audience, I think I'll be happy to take. Please ask. You will never get this type of expert in one place. So please ask. Yeah, there is one question. Please introduce yourself and ask to the panelists you want to basically ask.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Abhinav Bhatt. I'm from PSU, which is Indian Oil. We are into the oil and marketing sector right now. My question is for Mr. Sinha regarding the electric mobility part of all the developments in the country. What we are seeing here are different technologies of electric mobility being used in the sector. What are our plans on standardization of the battery tech, the development of battery tech, and the standardization of the mechanisms in which the public is actually doing the EV chargings, etc., standardization of the sockets, etc., because we'll see different charging stations for different kind of manufacturers. So what's our take on that? And typically the refilling of, let's say, a car at a normal gas station would normally take half a minute, 2 minutes max, whereas as compared to the batteries which are being charged for at least 2 hours, 3 hours at that place. So how is that going to change, and what are our take or the government's take on this?
Number of initiatives are going on as far as standards are concerned. The Bureau of Indian Standards has already issued. They have notified what they call standards with respect to the vehicle, components, the charging infrastructure, and the battery. So all those things have been done. Not that it is all comprehensive, but the major ones have already been addressed to. But and as the need is arising, so new standards are being kind of notified. So that is one thing. Number two, as you are from oil sector, so let me tell you that out of the 80 odd thousand petrol bunks that we are there in the country, and close to 65,000 which are in the government sector, you will very soon see that at 22,000 of them there will be charging stations. So there is a clear guideline given to the oil marketing companies with BP to be responsible for it, and we have transferred them money also to go in for setting up of charging stations. So fossil fuels gradually, this will allow the electric mobility to move forward, and the charging stations if after all every 2.5 hours one charging station is coming into the country, Every 35, 40 second, one vehicle, two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler, whatever it is, that is hitting the road. So that is the pace at which we are moving. So all those things are being taken care of. We have initiated, there is a concept of centers of excellence. So out of 23 IITs, at 16 of them, there are centers of excellence who are working exclusively in the area of sustainable transportation and electric mobility. So I hope that should be able to respond to it.
Yeah. There's another question.
I am Rajan Varshne from NTPC. My question is in series to this or some suggestion also. In some countries, swappable batteries are there, and manufacturers of automobiles are even cars and these SUVs and everything are coming up with standard batteries which can be replaced at the petrol station or charging station. They have a charging station there itself. All batteries are similar. They can be replaced by any other make, and owner is that make of the battery, and charging station is again some electric supply company or the petrol pump owner or whatever. So we get three layers of things, like battery owner is getting a business, customer is not dependent on changing of the battery, he is paying for use only, and charging station gets the electricity and he arranges it from renewable sources. What we are doing here is we are having 85% coal based electricity and saying that we are reducing the pollution. So what has been done to that address that problem or that convenience? Otherwise electric vehicle will not come. If at one end you are saying use public transport, then you are saying use car more to save on petrol expenses or running expenses, because battery has to be replaced in 5 to 7 years. So please suggest, or if you have done something.
I take your suggestions. That includes some of the unkind remarks also. You see, NTPC are themselves working on this, getting into this charging infrastructure thing. So NTPC CMD himself is keen that how to get into this particular stream. But yes, you rightly said that swapping ecosystem is gradually developing. For two-wheelers and three-wheelers, it is, more or less, it is in the process, I would say. For four-wheelers and beyond, it will require a lot of robotic intervention because the weight will be more. Manually, it cannot be done. So that, I don't know, because in different ecosystems, if I recollect, nowhere there are somewhat 30, 40 between these two odd countries we have taken to electric mobility in a very fast forward manner. In none of these ecosystems, the swapping of four-wheelers, swapping battery systems in four-wheelers and beyond is available. But yes, for two-wheelers, yes, it is very much there. China, yes, it is there. Taiwan, it is there. So those ecosystem, it is going on. We are also attempting that the swapping ecosystem should come, because that straight away reduces the cost of the upfront cost, because you can purchase the vehicle without battery, you can use battery as a service, and then that would take it forward in a fast forward manner. So that is how it is going on. But still there are a number of swapping stations that are there, primarily beneficial for the two-wheelers, more so for the three-wheelers, because they can't afford downtime during the course of the day. That is what is going on. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. In interest of time, I know there are multiple questions, but I think I'll stop taking.
But if I might say just a line, you see, it's only Dun & Bradstreet could do an amazing thing of bringing a chai, a finance, and infrastructure and mobility together, you see. So that's an amazing thing, I would say. And definitely I would say that in mobility as well as in infrastructure, other than finance, there is maximum consumption of chai only.
So thank you, and we'll stop taking questions. If there are any questions, I think with that we heard, gentlemen, I think great insights shared from And I think he just summed up from the chat, from technology he used, the skill he used, that's basically we can empower. And the finance, very important part, we are getting money. And of course, infrastructure and technology. With that, I think next 25 years looks secure. And I'm looking for a 30 trillion economy by 2047. Thank you for listening and thank you for sharing your perspective.